Hey guys, it's me, Kate again. This video will be my wrap-up. And just wait a second. I forgot one book. So, I'll be reading, this is my also wrap-up for my Make Your Meat Take a readathon. So I'll be telling you, I did not read all of these things for that. I read what 14, 15, 16, 17 things this month, so I'll go in the order that I read them. Pray for my soul, because I need to find the book that I read first in a really big stack. Okay, it's here. So the first book that I read was There with Vampire. Also, I did for a bunch of these reviews, so I'll link them down below so you can go and watch them if you didn't. So I read the There with Vampire, which was a reread for me. This is about a girl who named Violet who witnesses a massacre of 30 men, but they're massacred by 6 vampires, and she gets kidnapped by them. Actually, one of them, considering that others didn't really pay attention, and this guy only did. Also, my other reviews are spoilery, so if you don't want to get spoiled for majority of this book, I didn't talk about it like the smaller things, and I later remember that I forgot some things, so yeah. Also, I painted the edges of this book, isn't it? Like, I want to have like this dark red, but I have this which is a little bit lighter, but okay. So, and also there's a bunch of roses here. If you read this book, you will figure out what the roses mean. So, what was the second book? Why I don't have... found the second book. And the third one. So, I forgot to mention for which prompt in the readathon I read this. I read this for because I crossed from courtier path to the warrior to the knight path. I read this for the first courtier prompt that was the royal court is a busy place. All these people trying to win monarch's approval. Read a book with a big cast of characters. This book has 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, at least 20 characters that I can name off on top of my head. So the next book that I read is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the original screenplay by J.K. Rowling. I also painted the edges of this one. This was before she made this. She wrote some things on Twitter. I read this on June 4th or 5th. That was way before she made those tweets. So I read this for the because you'll find out why I read this in a second. I read this for the prompt You are something more than these mere humans with a book featuring a non-human main character. And this is about witches and wizards, so of course the main character isn't human. Then the third book that I read was Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, the original screenplay, also by J.K. Rowling. This was on also a day before the last one. This was for my second prompt on Courtier Pet. That was this die is awfully expensive. Maybe it's only fit for royalty. Read a book with at least one royal color on the cover, red, gold or purple, and this was the only one. This has purple, so that's why I read the first one. Also painted the edges of this one. Probably should use green or like real dark blue, but I used black because of the inside. You can see a little bit of how I taped it, but I also peeled some of end papers off, but okay, it's okay. Then the fourth book was the fourth book that I read. Really going. The next book that I read is Half Bad. I think that in my TBR I said this is called Half Life, but it's Half Bad, apparently, by Sally Green. The Veteran Vampire is by Abbigail Gibbs. This I read for the prompt. I'll tell you just in a second. You didn't become a gladiator with little hardship now, did you? Read a book featuring training or fighting. This features training. So you'll find out. Then I read this one. This is what is this half wild. This I read for my transitioning prompt from Courtier to Night Path, and because this is the second book in a trilogy, I'm not going to read just it. I need to read first book. So the prompt is you decide. Dedication has attracted the attention of the royals. You continued loyalty is appreciated, and the title of knight is in start. Continue a series you already started. And in Night Path is your knightly services are all over, and you can now retire in court. Continue the rest of your days in peace. Continue a series you already started. And then I read Half Lost for the prompt. On your journey through forgotten lands, you stumble across pure magic during your mission. Read a book featuring a magic battle. My camera is gonna die. So cross your fingers, it lasts a little bit longer. Then I read these two after 14th. Oh yeah. Then I read Thousand Nights by A.K. Jonhson. Also, the Half Bad trilogy is about this guy named Nathan who's half black, half white witch. A wizard! He's a guy, for God's sake. This I read for the prompt. You dread your return home, motion there are and endless sea seem freeing. There is no settling for you now. Time for tight life at sea. Read a book featuring a journey. This girl who marries a king goes from her village to king's castle. Then I read sequel, which is Spindle. It is Spindle. For the prompt, what is more likely than embarking on a quest to save what has been lost? Read a book featuring a quest to save something. This is a quest to save the princess from the demon. Then what did I read after that? Okay. Then I read Catwoman Soulstealer by Sarah J. Maas, which is a origin story of Catwoman, and for the prompt, Knight is known for their unwary loyalty. Read a book featuring a favorite author. So, author. Then the next that I read is The Court of Thorns and Roses. For prompt, it's not on this page, it's on this. Your devotion to the monarch is impressive. Do you still wish for a way to further impress and read the host's favorite book? This is Ashley's for lecture fiction favorite book. They made the whole Google document thing so you can see. Then I read Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. For the prompt, which is often seen with their familiar with the book featuring an animal which features a spider named Charlotte and the pig named Wilbur. I painted the edges of this one. If you want to see all the books that I did that for, leave the comment, then I may do a video if there's enough people interested in that. Then I read Emma Villa Guitaristica, which is about this fairy with a guitar who loses it to a goblin and two girls trying to help her find it. And I read this for the prompt. You sound straight mean you strike before anyone realizes. Take your goal quickly. Read a quick read. This is like, this has 70 something pages and it's really tiny. The next book I read is Fangirl by Rowell, about this girl who is freshman in college and tries to navigate that while her having trouble with her twin sister. For the prompt, no one can find a boot cheaper than a pirate. Granted, their method can be questionable. I read the book that you find at the bargain price. This was first around more than $10, and I found it for less than $7. So, and the next book that I read is also I painted the edges of this one and this one. Then I read The Fifth Dimension by Tomislav Beronić. It's a Croatian book about this scientist who, while doing the experiment, stumbles upon the fifth dimension of memories. And I read this for Make Your Mint Take a Readathon. I don't know if I mentioned this in my TBR. If I didn't, I'm sorry for the prompt. Just a second. Mercenaries were so common in history and yet have seemingly become a legend. Read a book inspired by history or legend. This is partially inspired by Croatian history. If you see these, like these letters, these are actual all Croatian letters. So this was inspired, at least partially, by Croatian history. Then I read two Ned Gallagher's Encyclopedia of Black Comics. That's about black people working in comic book industry. Some created their own comics, some of them are illustrators, some of them are writers, some of them worked on really popular comics such as Black Panther, Spider-Man, Batman and stuff like that, and there were black people working, and then like their story about how they got there and stuff like that. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was really interesting. I recommend to read it, especially if you're interested in comic books. And yeah, it was fascinating. The next thing is Fangs. Also, I haven't read. I gave 12 books for my Make Your Meat Taker TBR 5 to 5 stars because that were all rereads of favorites. Then I read Fangs. I supposed to put 3 stars here, but okay. The arc of it on NetGalley, it was comic book that was not really interesting because it felt like someone that came and ripped 10 pages from it, and basically it was all over the place. And then I read Prijan Lovro by Šenoa. This is a collection of his short stories. I read only Prijan Lovro, which is about this guy who's talking to this woman and telling her a story about his friend Lovro. And Šenoa wrote that about his friend from college in Prague. So yeah, gave it 2 stars. Yeah, I read it in a day, so I'm not mad. Or actually in a couple of days. I finished it only yesterday. Yeah, that's it for this video because my camera is gonna die, so I need to change it, and I'll see you in the next one.